Do you want to bust your sales quota? Do you want to join the ranks of top 1% sellers? The Top 1% Sellers podcast gives you the insights and the tools to help you achieve your sales greatness. The podcast features sales and services professionals, leaders, and experts to give you the edge you're looking for. Here's your host, Ash Sadiq.
Hey guys, thank you so much for being loyal listeners to the Top 1% Sellers podcast. You'll start seeing me actually bringing in some interviews I'm doing as part of my coaching service line, which is focused on helping people who leave a corporate job after many years of working in such a job, and they now want to start having their own business, really based on the expertise that they have developed over the years. And in addition to that, I'm also talking with these interviews to experts, coaches, authors who really are the chief sales officer of their own business, and trying to help them with topics that have to do with, how do they brand themselves, how do they brand the business, how they get very clear on the message that they are communicating to the marketplace, and how do they actually create a profit and sales funnel for their business and be able to actually make those sales. So it is in a lot of ways connected to what we're doing here, and I hope some of the topics that we cover will be useful to you as well. And I hope that you would also be able to share some of these topics with other people you know as well. And if you are interested in more related to this particular content, you'll see me posting some of it on Facebook at http://askashlive. And it is going to be, as I mentioned, focused on helping entrepreneurs, experts, consultants, and coaches, basically people that do executive coaching or fitness coaching, and other types of coaching. Most of them basically deal with the same issues, and I'm really focused on helping them figure out how to find the shortest path to cash and clients, and make sure that they don't spin their wheels for a long time before they do that. Or if they are struggling in their business, help them figure out how to actually kind of clear the way and make it possible for them to get to their clients with a clearer message and a clearer value proposition that they can sell for. All right. Hope you enjoyed this conversation that I just finished today with Pia Silva. Pia is the author of Badass Your Brand, the Impatient Entrepreneur's Guide to Turning Expertise into Profit. I hope you enjoy the conversation that I had with Pia. Hi, Pia. Glad you're here. I'm very happy and excited about our conversation. I've been following some of your writing and been very impressed, and I'm grateful that you have said yes to talking with me and to the people that are following me on Facebook, and also on LinkedIn, on Twitter. I'll be basically sharing with them a lot of what we talk about today. And thank you for being here. And I would love for you maybe give people a little bit of background on you and some of the work you're doing currently. That'd be great.
Sure. So Pia Silva, I own a company called Worst of All Design. We build badass brands without the BS for 1 to 3 person service businesses. And we do it all in 1 to 3 day intensives. Okay. So that's us in a nutshell. I mean, we work with experts and we help them build brands that command a premium price and attract ideal clients to them.
Awesome. Fantastic. Very, very exciting, because over the past year, I built a business around my Cisco experience, where I've taken a lot of the sales experience I had, and I launched an academy for sales professionals. Now I'm actually focusing on taking my own journey in coaching and working with coaches to really help a lot of other coaches really shorten the path. A lot of people talk about the fastest path to cash. And my argument is we could be going from San Francisco to LA, which is 400 miles, right? That's going to take us a long time, even if we drive as fast as, a supersonic shuttle. But the most important thing is, how can you actually get it done much sooner, and using basically the shortest possible ways. And one of the things that trip people a lot is definitely the business that you're in, is helping them figure out, what it is that they do, and then how do they brand it. So I'm glad that we're talking, because that's a big piece of what really stops a lot of coaches, right? And we spin our wheels for a long time, and we waste a lot of money and time, and the opportunity cost. I mean, the time that you're not serving clients, that's time you're not getting paid for, right? So it's like a double whammy, right? So I'd love to find out from you, for our audience, experts, coaches, and consultants who are taking their expertise and turning it into a business. Where should they start specifically when it comes to their thinking about the brand? Is it themselves? Is it their business? Is it the product that they are selling? Where do you actually get them started?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I generally start by looking backwards. So I usually ask my clients all about their previous experience. Tell me about your favorite clients that you've had in the past. Why were they your favorite? What did you love about them? Usually favorite clients come with favorite projects. So what was so great about that engagement? And usually people love engagements where they actually were able to do their best work. So I'm kind of asking all of these questions to hone in on that specific, perfect situation. What's the ideal situation where it's the right kind of person asking for the specific kind of services and where you can deliver your highest, best value? And I always start brands around that.
Yes. Fantastic. So what you're basically saying is that if there is something that they flourish in when they're dealing with clients, you look what the specifics in that interaction are, and you take that and help them kind of productize it, if you will.
Yeah, and it's not always productizing, although that is definitely a strategy I use a lot.
Yes.
It's really using that as a focal point for what this whole company and brand is going to be about. So the voice and messaging comes off of that focus. The target market comes off of that focus, the offerings, the pricing. I mean, everything basically comes off of, what is this core thing that you're really awesome at? Because that's the unique selling proposition. That's what everybody says. That's what it is. It's the thing you're amazing at that you do better than anyone else.
Yes, that's incredible. And then from that point on, then, what would be sort of the most natural step for them to take that revelation, if you will? A lot of people send folks on the path of building a website, creating a whole branding strategy for their business. Is that typically where you sort of advise them that next step should be, or what is your philosophy typically?
Yeah, well, I think people jump the gun a little bit when it comes to logo and website, right? Because everybody thinks that's what a brand is, and they think that's the most important thing they need to get out in the world. But to me, if you're designing a logo or you're building a website without understanding this core thing that we're talking about, this core brand,
yes,
and then also developing what that core message is. So how are you going to explain this in 5 words, 10 words, 30 seconds, 60 seconds?
Yes.
If you need to know, to me, you must know that before you start any logo or website design, because what your logo looks like and what your website, what the pages should be and what the website should look like and how you should price is all going to come from these core messages. So I think it's very backwards. And people come to us, I just built my logo and my website, but now I need a brand. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. Exactly.
They're a little backwards.
Exactly. And it's fascinating to me because I believe you've done a great job, sending out a particular brand. And I would be curious if you actually shared with people, how did actually Pia herself did it for herself? Because I know you talk about that in the book as well. I mean, if you can share with people some of that journey.
Sure. Well, it was definitely a journey, and it didn't happen overnight. I mean, really, my goal is to, like you said, shorten. My goal is to shorten that journey because it took me a good 3 years to figure it out on my own. And now that I figured it out, I can get people there in, a couple of weeks, a couple of months.
Yes.
It took me. So essentially what happened was I spent those first 3 years just trying things. I mean, I had no reference point. I actually have no background in branding before I started my business. So I was copying the agencies that I saw in the market. So I was networking a lot, and that's how I was getting business. And because I was networking a lot, I was networking with a lot of other small graphic design and branding agencies. So I just saw what they did and I copied it. Yes. Not intentionally, but I didn't know what else to do. And what happened, what I learned from that was when you copy what other people are doing, you're usually just doing a kind of inferior version of it. And not to mention there's lots of competition doing that because you literally copied the competition. So it landed me in debt. And that's the story that everybody loves to hear, because I was definitely in a deep hole, both financially and mentally distraught over being in debt and feeling like a failure. And the transition came when we kind of realized that there are lots of different ways for this to look. And the best way for us to approach this is to look inside ourselves and find what that core thing is. So what I was talking about earlier, looking back on your past clients, what do you love? You know, who have your favorite clients been? What have your favorite projects been? It turned out that this product that we had actually been selling kind of off under the radar, this thing called a brand up 1 day intensive. When we looked at all of our stuff, we said, that's our favorite thing. That's the most profitable thing. We love the kind of work we do in that. We love the clients that's for, because it was for smaller businesses, and our agency was really pitching to larger businesses. And we said, our brand should be all about that. So badass brands without the BS is, there's no BS. We do this all in a 1 day intensive. There's no BS 6-month project where we're going back and forth and tweaking this and tweaking that. To me, that's all bullshit. Like, that's all the stuff that makes the project more expensive, take longer. I mean, it just sucks everybody's energy. So, we were able to look inside and look at our past clients and look at what we loved and what was very authentic to us, and built a business around that. And that's how we built what was the beginning of what we are today, which is, it's a much more robust version of it, but it's essentially the same. It's these intensive projects.
Exactly. And that's perfect, because a lot of the clients that I would work with would be people who are transitioning from a corporate job that they have been in for many, many years. And they basically decided, I'm not going to work for somebody anymore. I'm going to have my own business. And from my experience, it took me a while to kind of pinpoint what it is. And I wonder, what process do you follow to figure out if the client you're talking with is more or less ready to make that step and do the branding? Or sometimes you can basically look for some signs where you say, you know what, it doesn't look like they're really ready to make that jump yet.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of aspects to this. So one of them is being really good at qualifying your clients, which I'm sure you talk about a lot. I'm very clear on the kind of people that I want to work with. I don't work with startups. I don't work with product businesses. I don't work with companies with more than 3 decision makers. I cap it at 3. So already that's a certain kind of service business, 1 to 3 person service. So already in conversation, if you don't fall into that, you're not for us. But the other aspect, which is, are they the kind of people I want to work with? That has actually evolved, I'll tell you, over the years, because as we've gotten better and built our brand more intensely, I mean, our brand has definitely developed a lot of texture to it over the years. We really attract and repel. So people that call me, they're in, you know what I mean? Like, people call me and they're like, oh my God, I read all your articles. I love everything you're saying. Badass. I want to be a badass. I love your name. And I think there's tons of people out there who see your website and they're like, what is this? Like, who do these people, think they are? Whatever they think, I don't know, because I don't hear from them. So a brand being really, really confident and strong about what they are and what they're not means that you kind of put up this curtain where only the kinds of clients you want to work with get through. And I think that saves you a ton of time. I don't have to qualify people that much. Exactly. Because the people that work with me well don't really get through.
Yes, and you have a very clear message, as you said. Like I've seen, like on Twitter, on your website, you specifically say, "This is the profile of client I work with," and I think that's sometimes is the longest mile for a lot of expert-based businesses, is to really get to the granularity that is needed to really be very clear on what that client is, so that when they knock on your door, more or less they have basically self-qualified themselves. Right.
Absolutely. And I will tell you that we didn't, it wasn't as specific 3 years ago when we made the switch. I mean, when we
Yes.
made the switch, I wasn't so keen on the 1 to 3 people. Like I learned that.
Yes.
I learned that fourth opinion is annoying and I don't want it in the room.
Yes.
I learned that, yes, we can do products, and we did do products for a while too. It's not that we can't do products. It's just that I just don't enjoy them as much, you know.
Yes.
Like I personally get more energy off of other entrepreneurs selling their services, because that's like, I don't know, that's where my heart is. That's what I do. And I can relate to their struggles on a level that I can't quite relate to a product business's struggles. So, you know, we could work with products, but I turn them down because it's not gonna, I'm just not gonna do the best job I can on, or rather, I'll always do a better job on a service business because that's where my best strength is. So I'd prefer to always work on a project with my best stuff, you know?
Absolutely. And I think there's part of it where, you know, you have the intellectual passion around taking something that's so invisible and then helping somebody really craft positioning around it and service offers around it, and really help them create something that for a long time has really remained in their own heads, right? You know, versus a physical product. You know, I think you like the pursuit more, which is fantastic, because a lot of people listening in to this conversation, that's exactly what that kind of help they need. And I wonder if, you know, if somebody out there is trying to look at their existing brand and find out whether or not there are issues with it, there is difficulty around it, they are not getting the clients that they are looking for, how do they go about doing their own self-audit, if you will, on the brand side? What would you advise them of doing?
Well, I would definitely just ask yourself, when you meet somebody, let's say you go to like a networking, or you're just at a party, you know, and you meet somebody and they ask you, what do? Do you have something clear to tell them? And that thing, are you excited about what you say? And when you say it, does the other person immediately get what you're saying? Is there somewhere that they can file that information such that they might bring it up later?
Yes.
If you can't say yes to all of that stuff, I would start there.
Yes, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So it's easy enough for people to really kind of store it in a category that's already known, versus creating a new category if it's something they can't really put their arms around it.
Yeah. I mean, I think I start with simple, you know, like it's better to be clear and have people actually get what you do and remember it than it is to do something that's so out there. I mean, we're certainly not about being different for different sake. You know, your difference should really come from something that is very unique to you. And the reason it seems different is because you take that little thing that's unique about you and you make it your brand all about that thing. Yes. So it's really about doubling down on that unique piece of yourself, and making that your brand and then committing to it. And, you know, I've been using the word restraint a lot recently, and I think that's a key to all of this. Do you have the restraint to have a badass brand? Because restraint means not saying all the other things that you might think are really interesting. Maybe they are, but they're going to clutter the message and they're going to confuse people. And when people are confused, they tune out.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I wonder when you're talking about this, and let's say you worked with a client, they've done the intensive, they built the brand. It's almost like a physician where you say, you know what, I want you back here in 1 month, right? Do you sort of do touch points along the way to make sure they don't sort of steer off the path that you told them to stay on?
Put me on the spot, Ash. Okay, so I always include 2 follow-up calls for them, but I'll tell you, people don't necessarily always take me up on them. I think because they're waiting because I think you're right. I think people get a little scared, and then they don't want to like call me and tell me that they didn't do something. So that's a little scary. I'm actually currently building something for that, because now that I've built something that works, that kind of operates almost on its own. I mean, we do the work, but you know, our clients basically come to us. I see that my clients need ongoing support in some way. So I don't have it right this second, but I'm currently building something like that because I know that they need that reinforcement. Because I do see some clients I've worked with, some of the earlier clients who actually didn't pay as much and this is such an interesting thing, as our prices have raised, the clients that we've attracted are more likely to go for it because there's something about them being willing to really invest in themselves at a high level means that they're also the kind of people who are not going to waver. So that's been an interesting lesson for me. Some of the earlier people who paid less were more likely sometimes to just say, I'm too scared to do that, and then not do it.
Yes, that's fantastic. And I think then, you know, it may be a good idea for us to kind of step back and walk the listeners through. If you call Pia today and you are interested in the brand intensive, here's what that looks like and how it would essentially look like when they sign up for it and what they should be expecting on the back end of it. If you don't mind maybe sharing with them that.
Sure. So even when people are ready to buy the intensive, the brand up, everybody starts with a brand shrink. So the brand shrink is an 1.5 hour interview with me and my partner. We deep dive into the business. I want to know everything about what's been going on, where you are now, where you're trying to go. And after that, I write up essentially a couple-page brief that outlines, okay, based on what you said, here's what you said, and this is what your brand needs to do. This is what you should stop doing. This is what you should start doing. Essentially a plan for your badass brand. And then on that last page, I say, okay, based on that, these are the things that you need. You need the redesign of your logo or the design of the logo, the design and build of a website, all of the copy and the messaging, this strategy, you know, put into copy, help with your pricing, help with your packaging of your services. Sometimes they help with their sales process, like what those sales are going to look like, the design of your social media accounts, strategy for marketing, strategy for social media marketing, your content strategy. And we can do all of that in a 1, 2, or 3 day brand up intensive. And so that's their option. So if they want to move forward, they sign up for, you know, usually I give 1 or 2 options because it just depends on what their list is. But once they say, okay, then we do all the prep work ahead of time. And then for the duration of the brand up from 10 to 6 on 1, 2, or 3 days, they are available either in person or via Skype. We do more and more over Skype and Zoom to go through the work. We present work, we get their feedback in real time, we make revisions, and we move forward such that at the end of the brand up at 6 p.m., we launch the website and we hand over this robust package of files with all of the raw files, the final files, everything is completely done, and they're ready to rock and roll like that day.
Fantastic. So you actually have a team with you on the ground that actually does a lot of these assets, creates them during the intensive process.
Me and Steve, that's the team.
That's awesome. Okay, that's fantastic. Because I think there are some other agencies whereby they just do the creative aspect, but not necessarily the creation and done for you aspect.
Yeah, you know, this really came out of my own frustration with branding and how it was so hodgepodge and that nobody wanted to take ownership of the business. And I'll be honest, a lot of what I do with clients is also business strategy. I mean, I'm doing just as much business consulting as I am brand consulting, because when you're a small service business, your brand is your business. Your business is your brand. Like they are intertwined. And for somebody to work on your message and the design of your brand and not ask questions about your business, to me is, you know, it's like malpractice. Like that is not going to help you. And when people do that, I don't think they're doing it ill-intentioned. I just think that they don't necessarily know a lot about business, so they're not making that connection. But to me, that is a critical connection that needs to be made. And you must ask those questions. Because really, why do we hire a branding agency? To make more money, to have a more successful business. Well, you can't, as Steve says, polish a turd, you know? You can't
exactly
make something awful look nice and then it's going to work. You need to solve the fundamental core problems. So we basically take ownership of the business and solve all the problems, which is what I'm looking for when I hire people. I want someone to not just do what I think I need, but tell me what I don't know that I need and help me solve the ultimate problem and get to the ultimate goal. So that's where it all came from.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I'd love for us to, I'm asking a lot of questions I would actually ask myself. So as a coach, one of the questions I would have is, as we're looking at the brand, when do you actually think about social media strategy as part of that conversation, right? And then you back into talking about the assets themselves. So, if you can share with us perhaps some examples of clients whereby you made a conscious decision that for social media, they needed to do A, B, but not necessarily C and D. And for another business, it was, C and D and so on. Yeah. If you can share with us some examples.
All the time. Well, first of all, again, I'm working with small businesses here, often solopreneurs. So if you're a one-person business, like I don't think that you shouldn't half-ass social media. Like it just doesn't work. I have a very successful article out there called "Social Media is a Waste of Time." People love it because I believe that social media is a waste of time if not doing it correctly.
Yes.
And correctly definitely requires buy-in. It requires consistency and it requires time. So depending on the the industry they're in, and depending on the person themselves. I mean, I'm not just, I need to know what this person is actually capable of and what they're actually going to do. Yes. So I will recommend social media, certain platforms over others, depending on their industry. I'm doing a consultant next week who does sales development consulting for SaaS model businesses. He should not be on other social media. He should be on LinkedIn, if anything, and he's going to be there to share content that he's writing because he needs to demonstrate, his thought leadership in the space. Yes. And another company I worked with is she does marketing for fitness businesses. So her Instagram needs to be on point. So we did a brand up with them, and we actually designed this whole social media Instagram strategy, visually, what she should be posting about, who she should be connecting with, and all of that, because that is critical to her business.
Yes.
But she's in marketing, so that's why that's so important. But I often tell people, if I don't think they're going to be able to do social media right away, we design all of the social media, and I say, don't worry about it for now. Yes. Your most important step right now is re-educate your entire network about your new positioning, because now it's clear, it's memorable, it's easy to share, and just get clients. And you can get clients without social media. You do not need social media. Social media is like second step. Social media is brand building, it's credibility building, it's how to get content out there. But as a small service business, you don't need that many clients paying you a very high price to do very, very well. So you don't need to spray spray online and try to get all the clients. You don't need all the clients. You just need a few clients. So I think that's a place where people don't understand social media. They think they're going to get those couple clients from social media. And I think it's a huge waste of time. And if you're doing it really well in the beginning, but you don't have clients, you're just getting lots of inquiries that are not qualified. So you're just fielding calls. That's if you're doing it well. You're fielding unqualified calls. Who wants to do that? So the short summary of that is it depends.
Yes. No, that makes a lot of sense, because I think a lot of people think they need to be everywhere and do everything. And then for the solopreneur, as you said, it is too much time commitment. And then I'd love your view on folks who actually think about outsourcing the social media activity. How wise is that, or what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, well, so my thoughts on outsourcing social media, absolutely. But there's a caveat. Yes. I think that really smart social media strategy firms are expensive. Yes. If you're just starting out and you don't have if you have $1,000 max to spend on social media, you're not going to get the strategy that you need. However, if you start your social media strategy and you work it a little bit and you build what that looks like, and you get kind of a core platform of, okay, this is kind of what I post on Instagram. This is how I post. This is who I connect with. Then it's very easy to hire a very cheap layer to manage it. So that's what I did. I mean, yes. I only got on Instagram in October, but I spent a lot of energy and time figuring out what that was, and I still am on it. But I have outsourced some of the more tedious things, so I don't have to spend that much time on it anymore. So that's what I think. It's really a hybrid. Unless you're ready to spend thousands of dollars every month for high level, strategic people, you're better off building your own brand on social media and then hiring support. But I'm all about outsourcing, so don't get me wrong. I want you to outsource. I just outsource in a smart way.
Very smart, exactly. And that's wonderful, and I'm glad we touched on that. And you did mention the fact that you do engage the whole business strategy conversation as you're working on the brand. When do you actually open up and talk about the go-to-market strategy for that solopreneur as part of that discussion?
Well, there's two aspects of this. So one is just get the clients right now. So I basically coach them, bring the brand up on how to go get those clients immediately. So whether that is I'm very anti-networking as a long-term strategy, but as a short-term strategy, I think it's amazing. You have a new brand, go to every networking meeting that exists for the next month and blast your message out there. Because when you have a very clear, memorable brand, clear offering for a specific market, you just need to stand up in a room full of people and you'll get a client out of that. Yes. So I basically coach people to do a combination of either that or just going back. If you have a great network, just go back to your network and just educate them all about what you're doing. Re-educate people who know you. That's how I built my business. That's how we made the switch. Because I had been networking for 3 years. I knew tons of people. I was in debt, but I had all the people around me who liked me and wanted to hire me, but didn't know how. The second I had something that was very clear and specific, all of a sudden they're all sending me business. So, I mean, it literally, I don't want to make it sound simpler or easier than it is, but it is pretty simple.
Yes, it's amazing what clarity can achieve,
It's amazing.
So, and I think that's why people need to reach out to you, because it's very clear to me that that's what you actually help them do, is really achieve that clarity around the brand and what it is that they do. My next question is really more around, as I interact with clients, there is so much around my brand that comes across that I could be building up my brand, I could be messing up my brand as I interact with people. It's part of what you do with the client is you basically tell them, you're going to be that brand ambassador, and there are some things that you should or should not do. Is that part of it? Or maybe that's a follow-on piece that can happen. It's how they are really showcasing that brand.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of all the stuff we've been talking about. The initial brand shrink is stop doing this, start doing this. This doesn't make sense. Only do this. I think it's more powerful to really focus your energy in some key areas and knock them out of the park. Steve, my partner, my husband, he's an artist, so he also has his art brand, right? And on Facebook, he just says, I'm not on Facebook, go find me on Instagram. It's just all of these posts are from Instagram. And it's just why water it down and why make it harder for himself? Just tell people you're on Instagram. And he's prolific on Instagram, so that's okay. It's more impressive to see someone really killing it in one place than to see someone kind of half-assing it everywhere.
Exactly. That's very good. Awesome, Pia. I think we've given people enough information here about the kind of work you're doing and how you do it. I love the fact that you've gone through the journey, you've suffered through it, you've figured out how to make it easier and simpler, much more impactful for clients, and that's the service they can get from you, and the fact that you can also do it remotely, because a lot of people say, hey, you have to fly in, we're going to spend the day together. You're willing to work with them any way they want. So that's awesome.
Say about 70% of our clients are virtual.
So, fantastic. And do you have a particular industries that you've seen much more enjoyable for you to work on, or pretty much very much as how you define it in the brand, sort of like 1 to 3 people, and more service-based businesses?
Yeah. I mean, all 1 to 3 people service businesses. I do love working with businesses that are helping other small businesses thrive. I see this ecosystem of small businesses helping each other thrive, and I think it's really cool. And I like being a part of that, and I like helping that happen. Not to mention, I love meeting the kinds of businesses that I would hire, because then I get to know them really well, and then they become an asset. So that's just like, selfish reason to want to work with small businesses that help small businesses like me.
Exactly. Awesome. Let's give people just a way. How can they reach out to Pia? What's the best possible way for them to reach out?
Yeah, I mean, well, you can email me at pia@piasilva.com, or, go check out badassyourbrand.com. We didn't chat much about my book, but this is like all in my book.
Fantastic.
And,
Thank you for tuning in to the Top 1% Sellers podcast. Give us your suggestions and guest recommendations by emailing us at ash@connectwithash.com. Thank you also for sharing this podcast with your colleagues and social media contacts. To connect with us on LinkedIn, please send a connect request to ash@connectwithash.com. See you at our next episode. Thanks for tuning in.